Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my final thoughts on the Devo Knives Mash. This thing, I'll tell you guys up front, is freaking awesome. I love using this so much, and I can't wait for there to be a premium one. I'm going to be on that so fast. My specific variant is the reverse tux, of course, because the only other option was a silver satin finish blade. You guys know how I feel about satin, so this was a no-brainer for me. Don't mind all that weird little marks on there, but this was a Blue Creek Knives exclusive, and of course, they all sold out. Like, yeah, they really did. It was so fast, and how all this happened, it was crazy. So these guys, when they were available, they were $135.99. I don't know if there are going to be more of them. Hopefully, or maybe they're just going to use the funds from this to do a V2 or a USA version, or maybe something with Riot. That'd be really cool. I personally believe that it would be really cool to have something made here in the US, but also if they did something with Riot, then they'd probably be able to bring a little bit more value per dollar to the consumer, like myself. So that's just my little 2 cents on that. So this guy is in 14C28N. It's blade material, good stuff. It's not anything super crazy. I think it's a comfortable blade material at this price point. I have zero issues or gripes about it. It's wonderful. It's a steel liner. It has a slightest hollow grind to it. It's nothing crazy. I think that if it was a flat grind, it would probably perform close to the same. Honestly, it's not super impressive of a hollow grind. It's nothing like the stout, that's for sure. The stout definitely performs a little bit better in general cutting tasks, but I personally think that this looks a little bit better than the stout. That's just me, of course. It's just the visuals, that's all it is really. And that tip is super freaking thick. When I'm at work, I really only use like the first inch of my knife, because that's all that's really contacting a lot of like cardboard paper and stuff like that. So let's get into a couple other specs here. The total blade length is 3.3 inches. Cutting edge is 3.21. So just be a little wary about your knife blade length laws and stuff in your local area. Titanium, of course, you have an inset liner on just the one side of the left side, and the other side doesn't have a steel liner. It's actually just beautifully milled out titanium, which is wonderful and definitely appreciated for sure. Overall length is 7.5. I would consider this to be a full plus size knife. I have large to extra large size hands with slim fingers. This thing is very comfortable. It is very comfortable to use. So nothing pokey. It's not trying to sway you into any specific grip, like this, like that. You got the reverse, one of those things. The total weight, 3.8 ounces. It's not super lightweight. It's not super heavy. It feels pretty normal to me, honestly. And that's really it. So OEM'd by Kubi, which is pretty darn cool because this shares a lot of similar traits to the Bridgeport Knives 395. This is kind of like a little brother to the Mash, honestly. So I will be comparing both a little bit later on in this review, but let's bring out some size comparison knives. Here I have my PM2. Very similar colorway we got going on here, but the PM2 is definitely a lot larger overall. Native 5, lightweight. Demco 80-20.5. Civivi Elementum. Osborne 940, and this is probably going to be the one comparison knife that probably has the most similarities when it comes to the blade, the shape. I believe it's a give me a sec, a spade point. I believe that's what it's called. It's just a really intense drop point all the way up to the tip. It's supposed to just allow for a lot more thickness behind the edge for a lot of scoring and cutting tasks and things like that. Last but not least, a Benchmade bug out. So very similar in overall length to a bug out. The handle's about the same, but I think you get a little bit more usable cutting edge with the mash. Alrighty, let's get in some up and closies. So this is a blackened stone wash. It's not a super heavy stone wash. It's very faint, honestly. A little cloudy. I personally don't mind it. That little mark is actually a rubbing point from the liner lock. I think that might just be a fitment issue. The blade does favor just the slightest to the clip side, but when looking at it, it looks pretty darn centered. But if I had a better quality camera, you can see that that liner lock, yeah, it's kind of sitting on there. So anytime that I go to thumb flick, right before the detent releases, it kind of scrapes right there. See? It's kind of hard to see, but yeah. So yeah, now there's this little rub mark. So yeah, it's definitely from doing some thumb flicking, which, might I add, it is very comfortable, and I actually really do enjoy it. So look at this decorative pivot side. It is nice and milled. I enjoy that. It's different than what's on like stout, because it's just like etched on there or painted or whatever the proper term is. And the titanium scales have a wonderful stone washing to it. Nothing too bright. It's not super dull looking. It's actually very welcoming. Titanium backspacer, it's all black. Can reverse the clip. It is a wire pocket clip. I know some people are not gonna like that at almost 140 bucks, but me personally, I don't care. It works perfectly fine. I think, pretty sure this is Lynch Northwest compatible, so there you go. But me personally, I have nothing against it. It's a wonderful design. It works. Goes in the pocket really well, and I don't feel it when in use. Access to the little liner there, plenty of access, and it is very comfortable. Everything is super knocked down, and it's great. I love it. No weird like gritty feeling. It's just super smooth. One little issue I did have that developed after my first week or so of carrying this is it was really drop shutty. Like, the action was insane, and a lot of people like that kind of stuff because it's like a cool factor. But I started noticing that the detent was becoming super light, and it was becoming less rewarding, in my opinion, to do a solid reverse flick. So what I decided to do is I took it apart, cleaned it. I flexed over the liner, and then put some KPL heavy all over, and it's wonderful now. This is tuned to me, so this may not be something that you personally would enjoy. You might like something a little bit lighter, but what's wonderful about being able to tune a knife is that you can do it however you want. So without really affecting the lock geometry, and taking into consideration that if you do mess around with lock geometry, it may become unsafe to hard use a knife. A really common thing that's been going around is spine whacking button locks. And yes, I did do this test in a little YouTube short on my, what was it? It was a Vosteed Raccoon. My unit, perfectly fine, nothing wrong with it. I'm actually going to be selling that one, so if anybody's interested, let me know. And I didn't spine whack this. I didn't hard use this thing. It has seen a little bit more action than a lot of other knives in recent times, because at least in the area that I live in, we're finally getting into a slightly warmer night temperatures. So I was doing some plant bulbs. I was like cleaning them up and stuff. So I was just like cutting pieces off and stuff with this thing. And so this thing was just all covered in dirt and like water, and this thing cleans up really well. It does. So I definitely enjoyed using this thing when I was outside. It's been a minute since I've been able to do something with plants. I love gardening. It's been a lifelong hobby of mine. It was, and currently still is, a way bigger hobby than my knife hobby is, actually. It'd be cool if I did like a plant YouTube channel, but then I'd literally have no time between how many hours I put in at work and then, you know, doing this and trying to have a personal life. I don't even have kids yet. I can't figure out where to get more time out of my day to do more things that I love, especially this kind of stuff. So with that little rant out of the way, the only other little gripe that I had was actually about the hardware of this thing. And hardware is very clean, very nice looking. Everything is T8, which is awesome. I love that. It's the same thing like on the Stout. It's just wonderful to be able to take apart a knife with just one bit. It's awesome. I love that. But the only little issue I had, and a lot of other people have been having the same issue too, is some of the screws, whether it's the pivot to the body screws or the clip screws, they're a little too tight from the factory. Whether they were drowned in Loctite or liquid cement or something, but some people really messed up their units and had to request new hardware. Me personally, the only screw that I had an issue with was this one right here. This is for the clip side. I didn't strip it, but it messed up one of my bits a little bit, which is not a big deal. It's just something worth mentioning that it was just tight, like really, really tight. I didn't like that, but everything else came apart really easily, so that was really the only thing. It was so odd. Everything else it had that very clean break. When you're going to take apart your knife and you have your bit, you start to put pressure and you hear that crack or that snap, and that's the seal, the break, like it's actually like releasing. So you go in and screw it and clean it off and whatever, add new stuff, whether it's a liquid or the paste Loctite. But this one, it wasn't like that. There was no movement whatsoever. I actually had to take some pliers, like vice grips, to the inside of one of the little barrels that's actually a part of the backspacer here. So I didn't mess up the barrel. There's no scratches or anything crazy like that on it, but I had to grip the ever-loving life out of this thing, and then with the other side just crank down with my largest driver. And yeah, that wasn't super fun, especially when this thing came apart so easily up until that point. But besides that, this thing has been an absolute dream to use. I can't wait until the V2 or the USA version or whatever the premium one is. If it comes around the $300 price point, that's fine. I just hope it addresses those issues. The whole thing with this being really, really, really tight in there to where, a form of engagement, leaves marks on the blade like that right there. Because I love thumb flicking this thing. It's awesome. Having it a little bit further down is how I prefer. Same thing with the reverse flick, just having a little bit further down on the hole. That's how I typically prefer to engage and interact with this knife. It's very comfortable. The hole is well machined and all that. It doesn't flake off your finger at all. and the action is quite wonderful, even if there is a stronger detent and KPL heavy. It's just, again, tuned to me, and this is what I like. So I just hope that the premium version definitely addresses those possible issues. Maybe a frame lock, I don't know, that'd be kind of cool. Really the only other thing that I want to talk about really quick, and it's not going to be like a crazy head-to-head battle, like breaking down every single little spec and dimension and like what cuts better than the other. I'm just gonna tell you guys straight up that well, unfortunately, both of these are not available. But if you miss out on this, getting this would definitely just, it would scratch the itch for sure. It's very very comfortable to use, about the same comfort of use as the Bridgeport Knives 395. Same thing with, you know, the thumb hole down here and reverse flicking it. It's extremely comfortable and super, you know, easy to use, mess around with. The blade shape also, this one actually cants down just the slightest. So I think the way that it cuts is going to perform a little bit better. Plus, it's a little bit thinner. The stock is a little bit thinner, and there is a hollow on the 395, just the slightest, I believe. It's nothing super impressive, just kind of like how the mash is. But because this is a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner, it does cut just slightly better. It really isn't anything that it's like night and day. They're both wonderful designs, and they're actually both manufactured by Kubi, which is pretty cool. So like, going back to the whole hardware thing, I was just surprised that, because this thing just falls apart. It's super easy to take apart. I didn't struggle with it whatsoever. It was just wonderful to do maintenance on, and I love doing maintenance on my knives. I like to see what makes them tick, how they go together, designs and stuff like that, different techniques of how things are constructed to look a certain way on the surface. But it's like they use different kind of hardware, and especially for the clip screws, it's just like they were so shallow. Like my bits can hardly get a grip. They can hardly get any sort of bite on the clip screws, and I have no clue why. They were just a little bit shallow. These ones, they look like they're the same, but they're not. Maybe I'm just crazy, but me personally, while they look very similar, all the hardware, the body screws and stuff that they use, and it might just be my one unit. Maybe I got a screw that just wasn't machined as sharply as it could have been, and as it probably is with, you know, a lot of other people. But it is something worth mentioning. So besides that little thing, I think that's really the only thing that I really wanted to mention. There isn't much else that I really feel like I need to touch on. This thing's awesome. Kevin, if you're watching this, I love this thing. This is awesome. And if you guys come out with a premium one, I'm in full support per usual. And I'm super excited to see where you guys go. So with that being said, have a wonderful day. I will be linking down Divo knives and Blue Creek knives, and even Bridgeport knives if I remember by the time I'm uploading this video. So with that being said, have a wonderful rest of your day.